I'm going to start off here at a very bad place because the picture is not in focus. I'll try to get it that way. This is Dad Weir showing off some of his trotting stock that he was very much involved in and very proud of. Did an excellent job. This is about 1936. Pictures taken by Sue before we were married. I hope everybody understands that this is an amateur trying to do a professional job here tonight. This is Penny from 1944, I guess, doing her whirling derby shack there at the back of 16th Street. We lived in that little house there in the background, a little cottage behind the main house. Enjoyed it very much. Quick move up to Taos, New Mexico, where Granddad Langston is doing a little irrigation and trying to keep from being photographed and being observed very carefully by Jim and Gary, his cousin, and Penny. Walking the wall in downtown Taos, New Mexico. See, Gary had his teddy bear right there. See that? About that. Penny's going to shoot somebody with a BB gun. There's Grandma Langston. Look, Ma, no hands. That's my sister right there, Ludine. A lot of smooching in this family, let me tell you. Handsome couple. Isn't he happy though? Ludine says, smile, smile. Oh, come on, smile. And he says, I know how to make them smile. In Verona, where, well, this, I'll have to leave that one. That was where Grandma Weir was born. This is Bess and Frank's house in Springfield. That's Grandma Kingston and Bess and Sue. Hope I can focus it a little better. We're on our way to Akron after being hired by Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company. We're all out of AIFT, and that was Missouri, the river and flood state, and now we're in Turkey Foot Lakes in Akron. Fast move. This is my boss in Goodyear Tire and Rubber Export Company, Red Thompson. Cooking hamburgers. We were at a division picnic. It's only a little dark, and we can't get too much out of that. Cleveland Air Races now. 1946. I don't know. This is the first helicopter I had ever seen fly. Noel Sikorsky. We'll take a few shots here. Two things I thought would be interesting, and one was the fact that it's the first we'd seen of a jet-assisted takeoff. Also the Shooting Star, which was the first operational jet fighters the Air Force had. It sent a few there. There's the winner of the Thompson Trophy race coming in from Los Angeles. Dumping out some paratroopers. Shots of the first Blue Angel Squadron I thought might be interesting. Those don't happen to be any of them, but A-29's flying in. Take off. Are the shooting star jets. You can see everybody jumps up to get a picture of those strange new aircraft without propellers. The Blue Angels. I think they were flying F-8F Bearcats, if I'm not mistaken. The last of the propeller-driven fighter aircraft the Navy had. To watch some wave action that occurred right in the aftermath of a near-miss hurricane. Of course, this was all new to us, but we took pictures of such things, and probably now isn't of any interest to anyone, but it certainly was to us at that time. This is Sue showing Jimmy and Penny some beautiful poinsettias. You can see the size of that thing in her hand. Those are they grew rampantly in Havana. And we'd gone out to the park to feed the ducks and the geese. Good looking ducks, good looking family. There's my sister, Ludine. She's come down from New Mexico to visit us. Now we're out at on a golf course at the Rovers Athletic Club, which was a British athletic club, golf club, tennis court or two. Kids, that's Penny there. Kids are celebrating Empire Day, which is the equivalent of the 4th of July. Empire Day is celebrated by Canada. So they had various races and so forth. You might see Jim wheeling up through here. Pat had just been born when these pictures were taken, and I had gone to a movie in town and had seen a newsreel and saw pictures of her at this race, and it was amazing. I still have those pictures. She wasn't racing, she was just standing there. These are king carts at the sugar plantation outside of Havana. The king cart industry was a target of our marketing to convert the wheels to rubber tires. Main monument on the Malecon, Nacional Hotel in the background. The main was sunk just 200 yards offshore here. And there we are, after having just been accosted by the Havana police. Talked them out of the fact that we needed a ticket because we couldn't speak Spanish, which we could, and Penny and Jimmy told them we could when they left by saying, "Adios, policia." This is the shots of the comparsas, the carnavales, or the Mardi Gras. This all takes place at the same time it does in New Orleans and in Rio de Janeiro, and is very much a part of the Catholic heritage because it marks the last days before the Catholic Church goes into its Lenten season, before Easter. The rich people formed their groups, neighborhood groups, and rode the convertibles. The poor people formed theirs and rode the trucks. But they would all costume alike with a certain theme and parade back and forth. This went on for three days, with dancing day and night and drinking and what have you. A lot of crime. A lot of people complaining about being pickpocketed and so forth, so it's a place that you sort of watch your P's and Q's while you enjoy watching the activities. This is about 1946, 47. That's like 40 years ago, right? So a promenade that runs from the shore of the harbor of Havana up to the presidential palace, as you can see there in the background, and the Ministry of State building on the right. Turn the other way and you look down to the harbor and to the Moro Castle. This is another shot of the presidential palace. Probably couldn't get that close to it nowadays with Fidel Castro in control. The president in those days never had anybody in charge of the garrison at the Moro Castle that wasn't a friend, because the guns of the castle were pointed at the presidential palace. That's the Moro Castle there. So he had to have a good friend in command of that garrison. These are the prisons that Castro now is holding political prisoners in, probably one of the most infamous prisons in the Western Hemisphere. Terrible place. The Moro Castle was guarded the mouth of the harbor and has been a landmark for years and years. That's a little cable ship there running a telephone cable across the channel. This is part of the old wall of Havana. Now we're looking up the Prado, which is the main street, goes also from the harbor. It ends up going past the Capitol building, which is almost a perfect duplicate architecturally of the Capitol building we have in Washington, D.C. Very, very similar. But of course, also impressive. How do you like those cars, huh, guys? Right next to the hotel we stayed in on the first night we were in Havana, the building was a social club. We'll get a shot here in just a moment. They played dominoes there all the time. There it is. Played it 24 hours a day. The ceilings were vaulted. The floors were ceramic tile. And the noise bounced out of that place and echoed all over. You could hear them all night long. This is a monument of the heroes of the revolution up at the University of Havana, a place where Fidel Castro managed to keep the student body in an uproar every weekend while we were there. Police would load out weapons by the truckloads, and yet we didn't know what he was. And a shot of the Malecon and the entrance to the harbor. Back at the Rovers Athletic Club, and your mom pitching up to a pretty good shot. Pitching up for a shot, playing with some of the girls. Gonna argue the line. Down in 7. This was a pleasant place. We enjoyed it. It was primarily a family club. Kids had a place to play and they enjoyed it. As you can see here, Penny and Jimmy giving the slide a workout. There's old Jim. I tell you what, when you see these pictures of Jim at that age and Mike at that age, it's hard to tell them apart. There they are riding the merry-go-round. You'll notice in a minute that Jim has to get off and push. So he supplies the horsepower. Now we'll see if the horse gets any water. This is the bohío. It was out in the yard there, in the play yard, and kids could use it to get water. There goes one passenger, and the horse has to wait. But they used it as a bar when they had outdoor parties and barbecues. Now we're at the Mothers Club. Everything was a club in Havana, very social place. The mothers had their club, the fathers had their club, and the Americans had their club, and so on. We belonged I belonged to the American club, and of course the family was able to come in with me. It was a businessman's club downtown, and very, very nice, very posh. There goes Penny. She's a flower girl. Mother's Club is celebrating May Day. There she comes again. I want you to know Penny's about a first grader there. Jim's making it to kindergarten. In this particular function, he is the crown bearer, as you'll see here. Now all of a sudden we're back in Phoenix, Arizona, looking at the backyard of the Weir place on North 16th Street. There's Jim, he's grown quite a bit. There's Penny, she's grown. And I believe that the reason that they're there at that particular time is that they were home on a vacation from Havana, and I was still down there, and they were up there telling all about how it is to live in South America and so on. That's Betty and Hoyt Canary's little boy. Arizona Canal. And this is just north of that canal on the Arizona Canal, and that's all houses now, shopping centers and what have you. At that time it was jackrabbit land. Oh, if we'd only known then what we know now. Penny and Jim playing with the cactus. Wonder if Jim's still wearing his shooting irons. There's Grandma Kingston and Alice Weir. Now we're in Albuquerque with Gary and Jim and Penny, and Aunt Virgie showing off her Indian puppet. There's Gary. That's my sister's little boy. Two-gun Langston and his Maul Penny. There's the puppet again. You will notice a similarity in that the Indian way it dances when you see the real thing here a little later in the film. His mom and dad, she's still trying to get him to smile. How you like that jig? Out in the front yard of the house on Castaneda Road, where my mom and dad lived the last years of their life. There's old Betsy, old DeSoto that the kids loved and everybody loved to ride in. And now we're headed up into Taos again. I'm going to take a look at the Taos Pueblo. Taos Pueblo is significant in as much as it's, at that time anyway, it was the largest inhabited and continuously inhabited pueblo that was still in existence. The mountain behind The Pueblo was considered sacred by the Indians, and didn't find too many white men at that time running around up there. Now there's probably a ski resort on it. Indian friends. Make them a little wampum, get picture taken. The quality of the photography and the quality of the transfer to the videotape, both of them done by a rank amateur. This is down the town plaza in Taos, taken from a hotel balcony. There's a service station right there that you see that I work in as a high schooler, and I thought was a moneymaker, so that's why I got into the service station business. Hollyhocks there at the house in Taos. Mom loved her hollyhocks. The Taos Valley. Also ahead of Rio Grande Canyon right there. And the river goes on down the Rio Grande Valley and past, finally ends up in the Gulf of Mexico. This is the entrance to Taos Canyon, the Rio Grande Canyon. This is a place called Velarde, little Mexican agricultural village that we've always thought was rather pretty, and love to get a picture of it. You might note through here that we take pictures of places, not much of people, figuring that maybe we'll never be there again, but the people will be hanging around. There's my sis again, having a smoke which eventually led to her death, with cancer of the lung. Sweet girl, has beautiful, beautiful singing voice. Those are Indian pots. The Indians in those days used to bring their silverware the silver jewelry and pots out to the side of the road and sell them right there. You just stop and buy what you wanted. Direct from the factory. Mom says, don't take a picture. There's Gary, very intent on something. There's Jim again. I tell you, Jim and Mike look so much alike at that age, it's unbelievable. There's my brother, Doug, doing this thing on a building. He was a iron worker. Now all of a sudden we're back in Cuba. The vacation's over. And this is a finish up of film taken of the Mothers Club May Day celebration. You can see Jim sitting on the podium back there, taking it all in. I think he finally collapses and goes to sleep. I believe earlier I said it was Mike, but I really meant Jim. There's Sue holding up the Mayday pole. One on the left, that is. There's Jim again, marching around, wondering what life is all about. Probably wondering, is this all it is? Penny says, I know you're taking my picture. Now this is a little Sunday outing somewhere in one of the parks in Havana. Look at that chick there, isn't she a doll? It's like Claudette Colbert. Here comes Clark Gable Langston out around the tree with these. Get those, you can't see those shoes, but man, they are brown and white wingtips. Latest thing. Somebody decided Penny was going to be a dancer, and she's out to prove it. Not if Jim can help it, though. Driving down Fifth Avenue. This was the avenue of the rich people. Many beautiful palatial homes there, some of the government ministers and so forth. Most of them built of graft from the poor people of Cuba. And of course, one of the bases and reasons for the communist takeover of Cuba. Notice how everything was flipped and taken care of. Here we are at the Havana Yacht Club, taken here by a good friend of ours who lived in the same apartment complex by the name of El Ruby Bescoa. I'm not even sure of the name, but I think that's the way it was pronounced. She was an American and her husband was Portuguese, I guess. Well, we're back in after a projector repair and trying to get the thing working right. That's Dad Weir working with his horses. Try to get things set up again a little bit. This has taken quite some time before we were married as well. I don't know how it got here out of sequence, but that's one of the nice things about home movies. This was taken when Sue was working right after her brother Jimmy died, and she was using a giveaway deal that they were trying to develop some business for a camera store, and they loaned people movie cameras to shoot film. These are the little dogs that Dad Weir took care of. One's Toto, the dancing dog, and the other one's a couple of Pekingese that he salvaged from a little ditch that had been run over, and he had to do a cesarean and save the babies, and that's what he got. Beautiful little dog. Now she had to take the camera back, meet a deadline or pay a fine. She still had some film left in it. So she stood out in front of this camera store in downtown Phoenix, and this is what she shot. Feet, legs, and the gutter, and see how straight they paint the signs of street lines in the Phoenix. Okay, enough of that. Cuba. Of course, the sign was taken at a little place called Cuba, New Mexico, but that was to give me a start on it. This is back down at the golf club, Rover's Golf Club, playing golf with some friends of mine. And Sue's. They were pretty good Joes. Pretty good golfers too. That guy was a pilot for Pan American. I'll try to focus these and hope that I can improve the focus a little bit. I think they're having an Easter egg hunt at the Rover's Club. And Sue at the tea table with some of her friends. She says, "Don't take my picture." Lady whose last name was King, very close to one of her best friends. This British lady, her husband was an accountant. Now this is out in one of the bohíos. And guess who this is? This is Patricia, 6 months old. Oh, she'll love these pictures. Particularly that her kids will love to see them. She's getting ready to play some golf. Beautiful form, any way you look at it. There's Griggs, he's a hitter. There's another hitter. Oh. That's where it's supposed to have gone. Now this, whoops, missed. This picture was taken at the Pan American Club, which is a swimming club. There was 96 steps down the side of the hill there from our house on Bay of Vista number 4. And the kids loved to go down there and swim. We all did. This is the backyard of the house. Little playing going on there with some of his buddies. And I think this is out at the Rovers Club. I'm sorry, maybe that was in the back of the house. That was the Rovers Club. This pretty ladies. Another good friend of Sue's. Can't think of her name. If she were here, she would tell you. Not important, but she was a nice Scotch lady. There's Pat wondering what it's all about. This is as they were getting ready to leave to go back to the States. I was going to stay probably for about 2, but it looked like about 3 months. It ended up being more like 4. And then I returned. Bougainvillea at the back. Isn't it nice how Penny's skirt blends with the foliage and the flowers? Penny and Jimmy might remember some of these kids. Last goodbyes being said. That lady's Molly Love. I remember her. She was a very nice lady. Mike Hazard, a good friend. And here's some of the kids' buddies out there. I truly wish that the video reproduction were as good as the pictures are. The pictures are far better, so whoever inherits the film, so they've got a better picture than the videos. The color enhancement is very poor. There they are, holding the flowers. Another shot of our son baby. We have one shot of her where she sits in her little chair with the hose propped up against her and water bubbling out of it, and there she spends most of her days. This is Easter in the back of the house this time, and the kids are out before they could even get changed and get their hair brushed. You can tell by the light that it's pretty early in the morning. And we finally got them back inside and got their hair brushed and a little breakfast in them, and then they got to come back out and look for the eggs. There's Muffy, our dog. See, they got the hair fixed up and hard-boiled Easter eggs for breakfast. Oop, didn't like that egg. There's Pat down at the Pan American Club again. She was a real water baby. She loved it. There's another baby. Caught Equilbearer again, playing in the water. But Pat actually even made motions like she was swimming. In some cases, we thought she was really going to swim. These are some very close and good friends of ours from the AIFT by the name of Bono, the Italians. Watching Miss the glass. They were getting ready to move from Havana to Guatemala City. He worked for Pittsburgh Changing Glass. So we spent the day with them and had a good time. We're back out at the Rovers Club. That's the Frenchman that was one of the few other foreigners that were members there. There's Pat with her clothes watering her tootsies. Great way to spend the day. Some of the diaper laundry. And some of the foliage around the house. Friend Fanny. The other was hibiscus. Very poor color reproduction. I'm really disappointed in that, but this is at the Hotel Nacional. The picture of the bay. These are the bonos on their ship as they were preparing to leave. We went down to bid them goodbye. And they'll put the little boy down, and he will walk with him, and he will tell when the ship's whistle goes off. Up there it went. We went back to the hotel and climbed up there to get another picture of the ship as it left on its way to Guatemala. Now the kids are at the pool in the Hotel Nacional, getting in their last days in Cuba, preparing to leave. We were staying down there as we'd given up the house, and I was going to live with a friend. There's the nanny from Jamaica that took care of Pat and the other kids too. There they are getting on the plane to leave. I was feeling pretty low about this time, really was. I was watching my heart get on the plane and leave. That was an old DC-6, at that time considered the premier passenger plane of the world, flown by most of the world's major airlines. And their first stop would be Houston, Texas, and then on into Phoenix. This was pictures of some nymphs done in marble outside of the casino in Havana. And too bad the contrasts weren't that good because the work was excellent. This is a shot of fairways at the Havana Country Club, a place where I drilled a guy with a golf ball and accidentally and put him in a hospital. I had forgotten all about this until a friend of mine who we met in Phoenix at a reunion told me about it. So I wiped it out of my mind. This is the beginning of a yacht race from Havana to Seville, Spain. They did it every year. I took the pictures because I hoped I would get something, but I didn't really know what I was going to do with it. There's one of the yachts, and so it was adios. Our friend I was staying with had bought a boat out at the yacht club, and he got in a rowboat and he rowed out there, and I went with him to look at his boat, and we found 6 feet of the mast sticking out of the water. Later, after I left, I understood that he did get it out and got it sailing, but that was quite a surprise to us. Well, after the family had left to go back home, I got to go out on a fishing trip for marlin, and this was the beginning of the trip. I say the fellow that I was living with rented the boat, and that's him, and then 3 or 4 other of us split the cost with him, and off we went with great expectations. This guy was the general manager, and that guy was the assistant manager of the Sears store in Havana. Pretty good guy. This was the sales manager for Cuba, Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company of Cuba. Doing all those bad things too. Our lookout for the marlin. That means no marlin yet. Still no marlin. Oh, a bite. Still no marlin. So we just decided to go fish swimming instead. This was a guy who graduated from AIFT with us, and he was the sales manager for the Sears store. Water was extremely clear. What's the powerful stroke on that swimmer there? I wonder who he is. Going back in, no fish. Some of the homes along the shore of the channels they're very elaborate in their private anchorages. Here in Havana, the plaza. This is the Havana Cathedral. Not much in the way of cathedrals as far as Europe is concerned, but it's rather ornate. This is the police station. Not a place that you would particularly like to be in. And this is some of our English friends again at a swimming party. And this was my last day of work. Some of the fellows from the office, the treasurer, a couple of my salesmen, that old fellow there's the guy taking over from me, Larry Muro. That old fellow there by the name of Lethbridge was the mechanical goods salesman that sold the belts to the sugar mills. And we were down at a big sugar mill in Vertiex's Camagüey. They were building reservoirs for water, and they were a prize account because of their earth-moving tires. And I tell you what, we had a battle with Firestone over that, and the Lord blessed me. I didn't know it, but He did. And I got that account, so we were rather proud of it. It was very lucrative. This was our office in downtown Havana, Lethbridge again. The office manager, there's the treasurer, he was a Mexican. Another one of the assistant office managers. And some of the other girls. This was my secretary here. She told me she couldn't speak any English. I found out she could later, 2 years later. I'm all saying goodbye. They were fine folks. I loved it. Lock the door. Time to go home. These are the Bacardi family. His husband and wife, they were heirs of the Bacardi rum family. But they stayed in Santiago de Cuba and ran a tire distributorship for us. The rest of the family did the beer and wine and the rum business. This is the hotel again, and I'm getting on the plane. I'm getting ready to leave and go home to the United States, and I'm on my way. Soon I'm banking to go into land in LaGuardia Field in New York City. Made it. This is a picture here of RCA Radio, what is it, Radio City or RCA Center. Very pretty. And this is St. Michael's Cathedral or whatever it is, and I can't remember what it was. It's a very famous Catholic church in New York City. That's the Empire State Building, and you can see they've got a lot of smog too for building. I was rather overwhelmed with all of this, but I think I'll cut it off here. We don't want to look at any more smog. Another picture of the Catholic church there. This is a home of a friend of ours, Iola Morgan. Her husband was the managing director of Goodyear, Cuba when we went to Havana, and they left shortly after we got there, but they were very good friends. We loved them, so I went over to New Jersey and visited her. Lived in Orange, New Jersey. So this picture was taken as I drove back west. This is, I think, around Amarillo, Texas. I stopped and got in a car in Akron and drove home out to Albuquerque. And there's Dad getting ready for a barbecue, and Gary on his horse. A little hour in Phoenix. This is Jimmy Key, a horse that Dad Weir sent his mare off to Minnesota to be bred and brought back, and Jimmy Key was quite a horse. Well bred, very expensive. Here are the three kids. Boy, oh boy, are they liking it here in Phoenix. Some of the friends we had in college, we met and went swimming with them. And look at this pair here. Aha! Riggs was his name. Antrim was his name. Whoops. This is a house on 16th Street again. 2.5 acres, and we really enjoyed it. It had a nice yard. And there's Mom Weir. Whenever we decided to shoot any pictures, why, the word got out and everybody got dressed up and cleaned up, and you can see they looked real sharp. Jim even had a tie on, even though he's missing a couple of teeth in the front. Not doing much smiling. There's Ellis. He won't take his dark glasses off. I can hear him yelling at him now. There, he got them off. Remember the Swain kids? Pat got a lot of pats. And they wonder why Afton likes pats. Friends of the family. We don't know which branch he came from, though. I know the kids will recognize each one of these. These are Gene's boys. Freddie, Donnie. Now we're in Albuquerque, gotten a picnic with, the Mosses. Jack and Lucille Moss live next door, and Dad and Mom and and Doug and Virgie, and I don't know whether the sister's there or not. There's Jack Moss and Lucille with Mom. Mom can slice, look at the size of that pan of potatoes. There's Doug working on the fire. I hope these are in pretty good focus. About the best I can do with them. This is 1950. Now remember, we're still on vacation, but now we're working our way in Florida. He was an art teacher. And the kids been fishing in a pay-by-the-inch place. They each got about $7 worth of trouts there. Now there's Pat walking in her first pair of shoes. Be careful of that turkey. Mom coming to rescue her. There's the blue DeSoto we bought in Akron, and we drove that car around the lot. There's a folks' house on Castaneda. We'll run quite a bit of footage around that place. Gary had a horse there, the Shetland pony that he had around there about that time. A Trigger, and the kids. There comes Mrs. H.C. There comes Turkey, has got him going. 45 pistola and everything. Whoa, look at that, folks. Now we've left Albuquerque and now we're climbing through the San Juan Mountains in we're at about 9,000, 10,000 feet there. About 1:30, 2:30 in the afternoon, and it is cold for us old Cubans. We're all batting down the hatches. Penny's got her traveling hat on. Got her all wrapped up, keep us from freezing to death. Again, the color rendition's not good. But we're right at Timberline there, you can see that. Hill, no kidding. Red Mountain in the soil. We are at Monarch Car over to let it. Still pretty cold though for us. Penny and Jim coming up out of the boonies. Man, these are blonde kids, isn't it? They're all blonde except Pat. There's the bus driver. Adios. We are soon to come over Monarch Pass, 11,302 feet, which is a continental divide, meaning the water hits on the west side of the mountain, goes to the west, and on the east side goes to the east. This is the Royal Gorge Bridge, and that's the river down below. It's the highest suspension bridge in the world capable of carrying automobiles. And rather scary when you go across there because it waves up and down and whoops, brake isn't on. Bridge waving up and down, but you can stand there and feel it. Now we're back in Topeka, Kansas, and that's Penny and Sue and Pat with Grandma Pinkston and one of the distant cousins' daughters. Now remember, the mosquitoes there were big enough to carry you off. He's got a few bites. Now we're going across the Missouri River, also in flood stage. It seems like every time we come to this part of the country, the rivers are flooding. So we had to go through the water, so we got in between two big trucks, and this is the way it looked as we drove along the highway. What highway? The highway was marked by big sticks that stuck out of the water, like that one there. Not the telephone pole, but the other. And we confidently followed behind the trucks, hoping that we wouldn't drive off the roadway. Just a little bit hairy. We were sort of glad to get out of there, let me tell you. The bridge. I don't know whether we're on it or coming to it or what. And we're getting out. Praise the Lord for that. Now we're at Hannibal, Missouri, the home of Mark Twain, who was the author of the Tom Sawyer series. All the kids know about him. That was his home. Now a museum. Too bad, again, the colors aren't what they should be. There is Huck Finn Langston. Now we're ensconced again in Akron, and we're riding the Uniontown fire engine to go out and cut some Christmas trees on a very, very cold, we can't get a focus on that. Very, very cold day, believe me. That was the Grims that we were with. Good folks. That's Jim all bundled up. Here comes Penny. There's Jenny Grimm. That's Hank cutting away. He's going to get his tree. There's Oscar cutting away. He's going to get a tree. Whoops. And there's Jim cutting away. He's got our tree and he's hauling it off. This was a house that we lived on an Akron-Canton highway. It was a very nice house. Trying to see in the window where Pat's looking out, but there's Penny looking out. You can't tell from this. No shortage of snow in the area. There's Pat looking out the double-pane windows. I think we spend most of our time buying oil to keep the place warm. As I say, for some displaced desert rats and Cubans, boy, this was cold, cold country. Now what is happening here, Jim is trying to build a little cross. He does build a little cross on these. Because we found a little sparrow that had died because of the cold weather and we were going to bury it. There's Pat looking in the basement window. And Jim trying to dig a hole for a grave for that little bird, and the ground was like concrete. There is the finished product. One of the many snowstorms that we had. One of the problems with that highway there was that they'd get glare ice on it and you couldn't tell whether it was just wet or whether it was ice covered because the ice was clear. Christmas in Akron. (1949, 1950), probably 1950 I would say. Kids were going to school at Uniontown. Except for that one. They're doing a good job of decorating a pretty tree. Well, look who showed up on the scene. Just come back here, Jim, and sit down. We're going to take a picture. Now, the kids are in bed, and Mr. and Mrs. Santa Claus are getting everything set up around the tree. Having a little tea, a spot of tea, and a little smooch. Woo-wee! Christmas is here. Here comes Pat, first out in the morning, and not sure what day this is or what she's up for, but she knows something special. And she's getting up on a rocking chair that I've sanded and painted for her. And this is her first attempt to feed herself with prunes. We had a good friend there who was observing all of this, and he was laughing hysterically, and Pat was cooperating wonderfully. And the more he laughed, the more she laughed, and the bigger mess we had. Kids having a little fun with little sister. There's Mr. Tongue in the mouth, or out of the mouth. Here he comes again. Trying to force a number 5 bottom into a number 3 chair. Hey, made it. It's like a dream, except that doesn't work. Well, we'll work on that some other day. There's 2 guns. And Pat up at our $5 piano that we had in Akron. We got the piano free. It cost $5 to get it back out of the house when we left though. Right now I wish I had it. This was sort of poverty days for the Langstons around there. We had been used to living pretty high on the hog. Now this is all out of sequence. We're in Laguna Beach, California. How it got out of sequence, I don't know, but this is after we resigned from Goodyear and moved to Albuquerque, and we dropped the kids in Phoenix with the Weirs, and we had come to Los Angeles to look into some connections for upholstery fabric and foam upholstery because we were going to be jobbers. Got that idea from Goodyear. We didn't starve to death, but we came pretty close to it. Now there is a good-looking gal climbing a mountain, and I'll tell you what, she is full of energy. and eating her Wheaties and all that stuff. Laguna Beach is a fascinating place. Beautiful. We still go up there to look around, stop and look at the motel that we stayed in for 2 days there on the beach. Really enjoyed it. Of course, for desert rats, this is a new trick altogether. Well, I tell you, look at that chick. She's got a figure, and she has a figure. This is the motel we stayed at, and we probably see plenty of it because there are a couple of shots that I can't keep away from. There was the view from our room right there, right on the corner. Headed to the beach again. Beach bunny. One of the original beach bunnies. All right. Yeah. Oops, lost the way. There's a picture of the old board highway that ran between El Centro and Yuma through the sand dunes. You still see it if you have a piece of it fenced off if you want to go get off the highway and go look at it. But that was the way they used to make their way across here. Sue can remember traveling. There's El Cid. Yep, the wind's blowing. There's the All-America Canal that my father helped survey and lay out when he was a young man. He was a civil engineer and had quite a lot of stories to tell about that, believe me. Quite an experience in those days. We used to keep looking for camels around there. They brought in camels to see if they could use them for transportation. Now we're in Phoenix, picking up the kids, and they've been selling pop for 5 cents a bottle. Will you believe that? That's a bottle of root beer. There's a Coke bottle. Don't see those anymore. Yep, that's right. It's hot, all right. There's little Icky. Mom and Pop Weir met us halfway in Gallup, New Mexico. We picked up the kids and took them back home. If they'd been down there spending some time with the grandparents. Mom, come on, turn back around. We look better with your face instead of the back of your head. And there's Jim. He's trying out his first aeronautical theory. We are at the New Mexico State Fair in Albuquerque, and unbeknownst to any of us, the kids were giving Father Langston the chicken pox, which laid us all out for 6 weeks and took in Sue's care and made a miserable 6 weeks out of everything. There's Mom and Dad Langston waving at us. But had we known that the reason that Jim was sort of listless and so forth, we would have gone home. There's Pat with a little bluebird that just came and stayed around us. She must have been sick, but she just stayed there. We rode around on Pat's shoulder. Here we are in our first home. We're putting in planting the mailbox. Now we're back in sequence again. We're in Akron. It's springtime. You can see that's all dressed up in a new dress. These Easter eggs Sue made, and they are just beautiful the way she did that. And now it's become quite popular. And there's Jim and Penny picking up the proverbial Easter eggs. The lady that owned this house, the widow, and her husband had left a lot of clothes around, so she gave them to us. Then Sue took them and industrially made clothes for the kids. And Jim's coat and pants were made out of those clothes, and it's just pretty snazzy, I'll tell you. She did a heck of a job. Look at those tulips. Too bad they're red in the film, but they're sort of orange in the reproduction here. We're out at the Grimm's house. The lady with the hat on is the wife of the owner of the place that we rented in Turkey Foot. Jimmy and Penny drank out of that same fountain when we first moved to Akron. The Pat's drinking out of there. There's Ginny again. There's Jimmy, that's Jimmy there. And there's Claudette. That is a dogwood tree. Beautiful thing. We're on our way to Niagara Falls. We stopped at a place called Schönbrunn in Ohio, which is the first white settlement in Ohio, just over the border from Pennsylvania. Of course, it was long ago destroyed, but it's been rebuilt and restored on the original foundation. There's Hank and Jenny Grimm. They were with us on the trip, and it looks like their 12th anniversary. Does that look right? This is some of the countryside in northern New York. Look at the old rock fence. This is a place called Blue Hole, which was an artesian well that came up out of the ground absolutely like a mirror. There's no oxygen or air in it. We stopped and spent quite a bit of time looking at that. There's the Grimm family. Everybody's drinking that root beer again. We stopped along the way to see a circus. And there's a Naval Reserve blimp that flew overhead. Also, as you can see, a covered bridge. We stopped at this place. The kids went down to the side of the bridge down by the river, and as they came back up, they ran across a little snake, and I want you to know they came out of there. Here we are leaving the United States and getting ready to cross over into Canada. That's the Niagara River. It runs between Lake Erie and on down past Buffalo, New York. Those, they tell me, are old liquor barges that tried to run the river during Prohibition days. Here we had stopped along the river on the Canadian side to have a picnic and to celebrate Penny's birthday. Number, what is it, Penny? Number 8? 1, 2, there's 8 candles the way I counted. Those barges. And the falls, or Niagara Falls, are just down here to our left. The water is getting pretty swift, as you can see, and there is the mist rising above the falls. And we went to spend some time looking around the various beautiful landscaped area on the Canadian side. Beautiful bushes, beautiful plantings, and well cared for. This is early spring in May, as you can see from Penny's birthday. There are their hot houses, greenhouses, and these are the plantings of tulips that ran up and down in front of the greenhouses. Whoops. Darn things just won't stay together. Now we're taking a look at the bridge that crosses over the falls, and there are the famous Niagara Falls. The noise was quite, of that water falling was quite impressive. There's some more of the tulips. The battery of lights that's shown on the falls at night. This is a curio shop and a restaurant. There's Miss Langston giving us the tourist stop. And I believe it was Empire Day again. I don't think there's any comment necessary. We were enjoying ourselves watching this tremendous seventh wonder of the world. Or the eighth wonder of the world, or whatever. Those little specks were coins laying there in the bottom of the channel. That'll tell you how clear the water was and how cold. That's the powerhouse. I was afraid the kids would climb up on the, sure enough, they climbed up on the fence and leaned over. So you just put your heart up in your throat. Here we are in front of a dogwood tree. Oh, isn't that nice? In front of a dogwood tree out at the Goebel's house. He was also a superior of mine at Goodyear who was retiring. We beat him out though because we were on our way out of Goodyear when we took these pictures. We were heading back to the desert. They were real nice folks, so Ivan was his first name. I can't remember his wife's name. I think it was Florence. Kids had a good time there. He had a big barn and they liked to play out in that barn. Well, we're getting ready to go to church, I think, isn't it, honey?
I guess so.
Look at that. Can I sit down? Now we're getting ready to pull out and head for the desert.
Oh.
There we are, loaded up. Look at those axles. And look at that trailer. The only thing we didn't know was as soon as fur coat and the money were back in the house, we had to turn around and go back and get them again. Now we're in this desert to stay. This is about 1956. Watching Granddad work out his product. Maxi Potenkins, he says. And there's Jim riding with him. I bet you that was a thrill. Grandpa Weir died not long after this. Everybody gets a shot except Pat. Old horse is coming home. That's Jimmy Key there. And there are the carpenters. That's the portrait. Okay?
No, the other way. No, the other way. There, that's good.
What's that look like? Oak Creek Canyon.
It is?
He says it is. That's the entrance to it anyway.
Yep, it is. I remember that. It's still there. Our way back to
Albuquerque. We had resigned by this time and we were moved back to Albuquerque. I think. I don't know, some of this stuff is out of sequence and I just can't guarantee it.
we were on our way back to Akron because Pat was a year old.
Yeah, could be.
And she was just barely a year old.
Oh, look at that. I wish those colors came out as well on the video.
We were on our way through Akron, Albuquerque to Akron,
Now we're in the Grand Canyon, though, I know. Look at that. Ooh, isn't that beautiful? Somebody's about to get their head knocked off with a deer antler. Yeah, this is the Grand Canyon, all right. Folks, I think I'll pass most of this until we get to some people shots. We ran into some Indians there at Bright Angel Lodge, and they were doing a little bit of dancing. Little did we know at that time that we were going to have some of them dancing outside a service station that we owned in Albuquerque.
Looks like the same one.
Mm-hmm. Seen one, you've seen them all, is that it?
I don't know. You don't say you go.
Well, I'll say. He can make those bells jingle on his side of his legs. Don't jump! Powder River, a mile wide, a mile deep. There's a foot deep. Anyway, that's not Powder River, that's Colorado Grand Canyon. Well, the deer were plentiful around there, weren't they? Isn't it pretty?
She looks like the Hartford.
There we are in Albuquerque. That's cat. Focus.
No, the other way. That's good. The outfit she got in Cuba.
You know, the colors in this thing is something else. The reds turn to orange, and the orange turns to yellow, and the yellow turns to nothing. There's Aunt Virgie dancing her Indian around again. She could sure make him jump.
That was a marionette that she had made.
Yeah, she made that herself. She was an art teacher, wasn't she?
Yeah.
I think the whole family were art teachers out of the University of Kansas.
Yeah, they were.
Famous bald pate of the Langstons. Look out, you guys. Oh dear. I think we'll pass these. No one is particularly interested in watching B-29's land or F-86s come in, take off. Pass. Okay, there we are in Chaco Canyon. I was there with my father. He was interested in showing this to me because the architecture in it was outstanding. It's not adobe, it's all masonry construction. The rocks that they built with were not located around the general area, so they must have been brought in from miles away, which is a mystery in itself. Corner windows like that. Perfect right angles. The plumb was perfect. It wasn't out of plumb. And the ability to cut a smooth circular construction as well as the square ones was evident. So these Indians traded from the center with the Aztecs of Mexico, as far north as into Wyoming and Montana. It also traded over into Arizona. Traded with the Indians that built the canal system in the Salt River. This is the kiva. The metates, where they ground their corn. In the center of the compound was a large ceremonial kiva, and then there were several small storage kivas around it. His dad walking through a doorway, but you can see how square everything was. Just amazing. Then they took mud and they plastered the inside of the rooms. You can still see the handprints in the mud, where in the protected areas.
No, look at the corner window.
Corner window, yeah. Amazing. Okay, that's enough of chocolate cake. 1950 what? 56?
53, and Pat's got a horse.
53.
That was a little rocky horse that Baba, Grandpa, as the kids called him Baba, fixed all up for it, made little leather ears and repainted it.
I think Mike even rode on it, didn't he?
Every kid in the family has ridden on it.
This was inside of the Ware residence in Phoenix at 16th Street. Jim holding up his Cub Scout badges. Those teeth looks a little like chipmunk.
Grandma just had the house newly done. She was so proud of it.
Ladder-back chair.
Candy dish.
Yeah.
There's a candlestick. And that's the fire that I used to be warmed by when I was a child, the only heat we had in the house.
Sounds real pioneerish.
That's it. There's Grandma showing off her Vaseline glass collection. I guess that's the piece we gave her, wasn't it?
What?
That's the piece we gave.
Yeah. We found some back in Ohio and brought it with us.
That's Grandpa Weir, and Great-Grandpa Weir, and that's Dorothy, the carpenter. There's Freddie, and there's Penny, and Donnie, and there's Jean, my cousin. And there's the little Dickie. He's the lawyer now.
Little, 6'4", 250 pounds.
This was after the party was over and he was getting some shut-eye. Kind of felt the same way. Look at that black hair.
Yeah.
Isn't that something? I think this was coffee and fruitcake. It was much, much later.
It was pretty late by the time we got around.
This is
Grandma Weir, maybe coming to Albuquerque to visit.
Yeah, this was after Grandpa had passed away and Grandma came up to visit us. And this hopped to the springtime when the kids were confirmed in the Catholic Church.
First communion.
There's Gary, their cousin, only cousin. There's Oscar's sister. Gary's mom. There's all the Langston grandkids right there.
All except Mike.
Yeah, he wasn't even thought about yet.
Penny practicing her dancing.
Yep, look at those hats. Wouldn't go anyplace without a hat. There's Pat in her pretty dress. We were telling her to turn around, bend over. There, that's what we were trying to get her to do, be a turkey.
Look at her pretty panties. My, weren't they a handsome group?
Mighty proud of them.
I'll say, still are. Always will be. My, look at those girls there. There's Doug doing some work on a building. He was an iron worker, and that was his favorite thing, was to show off what he could do in the ironworking business. This is North 4th Street Businessmen's Parade. Some over the over the lens. They're the Indians. We're going to have them back at dance at the station. We had just gone into partnership. There's our truck. So we just gone into partnership with a friend named Jim Wheelock, who is our accountant, and under this service station. And we were just opening up when this parade came by.
So
2 months later, the highway department closed the street and moved all the traffic over 2 blocks from us. And it was closed for about a month. Nearly broke us right there. We came back. There they go. Look at those good-looking kids on that truck.
all the kids, the Wheelock kids and the Langston kids were on the truck. That's who came to see the parade.
Yeah. There we are, rolling into the station. Everybody waving.
Where did I get Jimmy's little outfit? Did I miss that?
You made it. Got one of my uniforms.
That's right. And the girls were all dressed alike. And there's their baby boy. There's Jim and Ozzy.
Yeah, yes and Ozzy. The one was a service clothes, you know. So that was what we were pumping with. 1, 2, 3 service. Put in the gas, wash the windshield, check the tires, be sure and get the money.
And that was the after parade treat right there.
Yeah, all the kids were drinking the Coke. Granddad's car sitting in the back. Pat still hadn't learned how to drink Coke out of the bottle, but she was getting it down. She nearly swallowed the bottle.
There's Grandma Winter's full dress.
Mm-hmm.
Grandma Langston. See, the kids won't know who is Grandma Langston or me or Grandma Lucy. We ought to call them Grandma Lucy.
There's the ding-ding dancers. The hoop dance.
That's fantastic. That's the eagle dance.
Done by eagle feathers.
This was a family and their name was Philip Whitefeather or
Something like that. Here we are in Vicedis. I wouldn't pay the 2.5 for motor, so I rode around the lake. had a nice little camp there though, and we really enjoyed it. Kids did all kinds of things. There they made a little garden.
Yeah, they picked up moss, flowers.
There's Pat, I think she's gonna get a big fish. And Jim's gonna make her one. It looks like a fish to be one. I had her see it for a while. And Icky the dog. Inky.
He was calling, his name was Inky, but the kids, as close as they could come to it, was Icky.
Isn't that pretty?
That was a beautiful lake, wasn't it?
Sure was. Still is, I guess.
That got it. Looks like it's, flooded.
Here's the camp. I think we're just finishing up the meal. Jim's working on the fish, and Pat and Penny are doing the dishes. I don't know what Pat's going to do there with that. He was headed to do something. There she is on a horse that they made for her, out of pine cones and a stick, and an old pillow.
She loves it too.
Here we are driving out. Love to look at that. I'd like to go back there sometime with a camper van and spend a week. This is back of the backyard of our house in Albuquerque on Headingley.
First one we were going.
And that's an old pigeon called Meathead that just hung around with us and rode around on Pat's head.
So it's
Soon
called,
picking up the trash,
it's called meathead because the other one kept the hair off its head.
kept all his feathers off. Yeah, that's right. And we had a bunch of pigeons move in on us. There's Miss White.
And then there was Blue Boy. The kids raised those from 3 little babies and fed them to the eyedropper.
Yeah. And then there was old Red. We had them all named. That's in front of the house in farming in
Albuquerque. That's good.
Seems like I missed some of the heads. Cut them off. I'm good at that.
Well, that's
No, it's not that. It's photography.
That's our first home in Albuquerque. 2305 Headingley, Albuquerque, New Mexico.
By this time, I'd gotten rid of the service station and I'd gone into the insurance business. I was learning to like it. Jim doesn't look very happy there.
Penny would have to be, I was pregnant with Mike then, so Penny had to be 12. 13. Oh, there's
There's
Mike.
Mike.
I guess he was,
He finally showed up. I've said it before and I'll say it again, that Mike and Jim look so much alike when they're little tiny guys that it's hard to tell the difference in the film. These are the Grimms from Akron, Ohio. They're back visiting us in New Mexico. We went out on a picnic and we were having fun.
there's their oldest, no, that was Cherry.
Is that Cherry? No, I don't know which one it is. paint covering up the latrine area.
There's Penny getting dressed in the morning, I guess.
Yeah. We were up somewhere around Santa Fe. I'm not sure exactly where we were. But, it wasn't a prepared campground, I'll tell you that. We just pulled off the road. This was a wagon display on the side of the road we stopped to visit. Sue can tell you a lot about that.
The Grimms were the people that befriended us when we first went to Akron. And Jimmy cut his finger the first day that we moved into the house. They were the neighbors, and she was the one that took me to the doctor.
Yeah.
With Jim.
Good friends.
And we still are.
Well, they've been out to California to visit us twice since this visit. And we're going to go back and visit them next year.
Right.
This was a big home of us,
Adobe Hacienda.
Adobe Hacienda, right. That was outside of Santa Fe. We were rather impressed with it, especially to have Hank and Jenny look at it, because this was all foreign country to them. Back at 2305 Headingley, and the Grimms are getting ready to leave and go back to Akron. So it's time to kiss and say goodbye. And Penny holding Mike up there, and Jim's going out to kiss his girlfriend goodbye. He was ready to go with him. Here is Mike. Like that hat. Mike was a hat man even then.
That was a cute little house. That had a corner. Oh, there was the garage that we made into a master bedroom.
Yeah, converted the garage.
Oh, and there's
We
our
built our
Barbecue.
barbecue and patio. That was nice and all bricked in.
okay, boy.
There he goes. Get up and walk there, guys.
That's before we went to Farmington, so he wasn't a year old yet.
No, I don't think he was.
No, he wasn't. That looked like Garrett. His hair's beginning to curl.
Yeah.
There's a close-up of him.
Well, here we are back at Vicitas again. Another trip. And we've got Mike with us.
Now, there's that fish.
Pat's got a fish this time. Grown up quite a bit from what she was the last time we took a picture of Vicitas.
Oh, that water was
swimming in that
cold.
cold lake. Jim's in there with her too. The rest of us just talking about it.
Oh, I remember going in.
Yeah, we went in, but we didn't stay very long. Penny's going to tell us, listen if you can read her lips now.
It's cold.
This is some of the colors that we saw when we were up Langston there. Jim's got his true haircut.
Oh, short haircuts are in. Look at Penny's and look at mine.
Yeah.
Beautiful aspen trees. Where was this?
It's up in the San Juan Mountains. We just went up to see the colors, and I think it even rained that day on us. Enough for that.
Oh, is this the day that we got the little stones and brought them out?
Yeah, I believe so. We went over to Uray, that's Bear Creek Falls. Yeah, we went over to that little old mining shack, and there was that little iron stove, potbelly stove there, so we just piled it in the car and brought it with us. And that was sort of the thrill, hanging off the side taking that shot. I'm not great for heights anyway.
What in the world is that? That's just up the mountain.
Side of the mountain. There's our house in Farmington.
This is our second house. See, we bought the other one. Let's see, we paid what?
$10,000 for it.
$10,000 for it.
Sold it for $14,000. Paid $20,000 for this. Had it built. Sold it for $25,000.
31.
Well, we got $5,000 worth of land for it.
And there's Papa. And there's Michael. And there's where Michael plays.
And he fenced off in the carport so we could overlook Farmington. Had one of the best lots in the city.
Absolutely. It's a beautiful place. There's the little Willies that the kids drove, the kid car.
We were also looking off to the west there at the airport. On a clear day, you could almost see ship rock in Mexico.
You could. Right out the Kitchener. That's not the direction.
Then we'd gone up the mountain to get a little snow fun in.
This is on the north side of the house.
I think that this was on the north side of the house in Farmington, but I can't see anything that would tell me that.
The kids put the swing down there to stop them.
Yeah. Well, where's the town or anything?
That was a homemade sled, too.
Yeah, we made that sled, towed it behind the car.
That's right. This is in Phoenix.
Yeah, this is in Phoenix at 190 East Coronado. Grandma Weir bought a condominium in conjunction with Bess, and bought it the rest from Bess. And so we'd come down and visit her there. Kids go swimming. That's a fair. And it still remains a nice place in Phoenix, although the general area is moving, a good area is beginning to move away from it, why it's still a nice place. Here we are getting ready to go back to Farmington. Even early in the morning you can see the shadows are still laying over from the east.
Those trees are immense now, and the shrubbery's all grown up. There comes Mama. Oh, that's the latest style.
Boy.
I guess.
Black socks yet. There's Mom Weir waving goodbye. That's one time she didn't turn around and show me the back of her head.
Yep.
And here we've gone up to see some snow when she came to Farmington to visit. Only that's not Farmington. We had that car, we were in Albuquerque. think this was the day that it rained on us when we were almost asleep, as a matter of fact, because it was getting pretty cold. See the snow on the mountains back there? There you can see it falling. See it standing, beating up on the road. We're going to keep looking at this kind of stuff. There's no kids in it, but this is Mom and Dad Langston's memories we're looking at. We enjoy that country.
Well, how far was Farmington from Durango and
60 miles from Durango. Here we are in Silverton, and there's the old train,
little
the
narrow
narrow
gauge?
gauge train.